Hey, everybody, welcome back to OTT Executive Podcast. I'm Brian Mahoney, the president of the OTT Executive Community and the CEO of Trend Research. And we're continuing in our series of interviewing leaders in the industry, getting to know hopefully a lot from them and a little bit about them as well. So today I welcome Scott Apgar. Scott, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Brian. Great to be here. I'm excited to participate in the podcast today.
And Scott, your title at SeaChange?
My title has recently improved, much to my surprise. I'm the Senior VP now of Advanced Advertising.
Nice.
Yeah, so I've come quite a way in SeaChange over the last, 19 years or so. Started my career here as banging on a keyboard in a cubicle, writing video drivers.
That's
So
awesome. Well, we're going to get into that in a minute. I just wanted to thank SeaChange and Scott and the team there, Justin, have been great partners with Trend Research over the years. You've been sponsors of the OTT Executive Summit. We've done some great consulting work together. A few years ago, we worked on an ROI model for the cable industry, looking at the cost of moving to IPTV and OTT infrastructure. That was really interesting. And just a great team there. Very knowledgeable, been in the business for a long time, and I'm grateful for our frequent collaborations. And here we are once again.
yeah, it's excellent. It's great working with you, Brian.
All right, Scott. So let's go back. I mean, one of the things that's interesting about these podcasts is kind of understanding how people got to where they are right now in their current role. So take us through your career a little bit. Like, how did you get started into this industry?
Yeah, okay, sure. Well, let's see. I've been in the industry quite a number of years in the late 80s, started out with Digital Equipment Corporation.
Deck.
No
Wow.
longer around, but yeah, DEC. And so did hundreds of my peers coming fresh out of college. It was kind of like a country club atmosphere at work. We were a bunch of 20 somethings out, fresh ideas, fresh outlooks, and digital brought us all together. And unfortunately, had us working on stuff, or maybe it's fortunate, but stuff that was not fun to talk about, right? So you'd go to dinner parties and such, and people say, "Hey, what do you do?" Well, I write operating system code, device drivers for keyboards and mice, and they'd fall asleep. So uh, after digital, I went into the video space. I got interested in video. I went to a company called Avid Technology,
Yeah.
still around, and they were doing some really cool stuff around special effects. And that is fun to talk about. People talk
Yes.
about all the movies that would come out and all the special effects. I was writing video drivers for boards, proprietary boards for Avid. A lot of fun. Great company back in the day, and got to start my visits to NAB and really got into the video approach
Yeah.
out there. And because it was the dot-com boom, I started seeing pots of gold all over the industry, and I chased it, right? Like many of my peers and colleagues did. It never worked out for me. I bounced from a couple of companies where I'd show up and the doors would be locked. And finally wound up here at SeaChange, which has been one of the best moves I've made in my career. I've been here, I think, 19 years now and
Wow.
really enjoyed it. Yeah, done a lot of different, had a lot of different positions, done a lot of different work here. I started mentioning banging on the keyboard on device drivers for SeaChange and have come all the way up through the ranks to be leading the engineering team quite a few years back. And then we made some significant acquisitions of engineering talent, and I jumped to the dark side and started doing product management and sales, and that's where I am now. Here
That's
at
great. And you're really good at it. That's awesome. So take us to like the present day. What's your current role? What's your purview in your organization?
yeah, current day SVP of advanced advertising. What I try to do for SeaChange now is help our customers understand how we can help them make money in advertising. It's all about the revenue. And what I like to do is think about new product ideas that we're going to bring to our customers, speak with them collaboratively, find out what they need and what their pain points are in their video end-to-end video offering, specifically around advertising and revenue, and see what we can bring to the table to help them get through that.
Yeah, and that's really hot. I mean, it's a major trend. We'll talk about industry trends a little bit. That's a big trend in the industry right now, moving towards advertising-based business models. Obviously, you have Netflix and some of the big leaders on the SVOD side. But we've just had this massive proliferation of FAST and AVOD-based business models that have launched, hundreds, if not thousands now across the globe. Very impressive. Before we get into that, maybe just a quick background on SeaChange for the benefit of our audience.
Sure, thank you. Yeah. So SeaChange cut our teeth way back when on doing video hardware and has since transitioned to be strictly a software company. And a lot of folks aren't aware because of that legacy background that SeaChange has. A lot of folks aren't aware that we're a streaming platform now, that we're offering end-to-end streaming services all around the globe. So we've got new product offerings, including connected TV offerings through some of our partners with Hisense TVs and Vita. You can see in the industry media announcements where we offer an end-to-end service. And we focus not only on our prior legacy customer base, which would be MVPDs, telcos, cable providers that had that hardware approach to video initially, but also now segueing into providing content providers end-to-end white label streaming solutions because we're very experienced in it and can offer that to them.
So SeaChange got its start in early VOD, right? Video on demand,
Yeah.
but hardware-based solutions, correct?
Hardware-based, initially selling shoeboxes that did ad insertion and transitioned from that to doing our own video servers,
Okay.
including our own operating systems and device drivers, proprietary based, to
Yeah.
drive VOD. And that kind of kickstarted us into the back office and finally into client software, our own client software in the streaming service.
But advertising's been in your DNA from the beginning of the company, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Advertising paid the bills not only for our customers, but for SeaChange as well.
Yeah.
That's been one of the drivers of the SeaChange name, advertising.
And
Absolutely.
you've evolved. I mean, that's always been a focus, but the company's evolved from hardware, kind of a focus on the cable industry, to now software, cloud, and streaming and virtual MVPDs, right?
Exactly. And that was kind of a tough transition for
Mhm.
SeaChange because we had a great and continue to have a great reputation in that sort of baseline legacy ad insertion arena, including the VOD, and transitioning over to this new world with all the streaming services, all virtualized. It's taken us a while for many of the vendors and customers in the industry to recognize sea changes here.
Mhm.
And we continue to offer that and excel at that through software as a service offerings, all cloud-based platforms where we'll bring your content in and then push it out with advertising to make you revenue. In addition, we support our existing customers with on-premise offerings of the same high quality back office client and advertising
Mhm.
software stacks.
Yeah, I mean, you have the luxury of that pedigree, long experience in the advertising space. But unlike a lot of companies, you made that transition to the new world of cloud and SaaS and streaming, as opposed to this kind of hardware and sort of old school, I guess you'd call it, video delivery kind of business model. That's challenging. A lot of your peers or competitors aren't around anymore, right? You guys made it work.
Yeah, that's true. It is very challenging in keeping your technology current and fresh with the number of vendors that are coming into this streaming industry, including content providers themselves that are developing their own solutions and going out to direct to consumer with those solutions and apps. It's critical to have a great, solid company behind your streaming
Yep.
service with the technology stack, but also the knowledge and operational know-how to put it together for you and
Right.
support it going forward. Because if you've got your customers watching the Super Bowl on a streaming app and it goes down, that's a huge problem for you. So
Yeah, and I know sports
change brings that.
is a big focus for you. So let's do this. I want our audience to better understand what SeaChange does, but I want to do it in the context of sort of like a business case. So let's pretend I'm a CEO of a new streaming service or a new virtual MVPD, right? And I call you up. I'm like, hey, Scott, I knew you from your days coding for, mouse, whatever,
Right.
drivers or something like that. What are you doing now? And, so what is that pitch? Like, what is the suite of services that you could provide to my new virtual MVPD?
Yeah, so what we can bring and what we would offer is an end-to-end streaming platform for you,
Okay.
which includes the client. That's an important piece, the interface to your subscriber base. So we'll bring that client software to you. We'll bring the back office. And a lot of people don't quite get what the back office is, but that's offering packages to your subscribers. It's offering recommendations and the swim lanes of offer behind the client. So we know what you like to watch and we can keep your viewers coming back by offering them the content that they like to view in an easy to find fashion. That's one of the big problems we see in the industry today is viewers get fed up with trying to find out what to watch and just move on.
Yeah.
And
So let's break that down a little bit. So, but when you say back office, is that synonymous with sort of like video workflow, kind of managing from ingest to content management,
exactly, yeah,
recommendations, subscriber
exactly.
management, all those
Characterizing
things?
it, doing
Okay.
all the metadata ingest, cataloging it, storing all that
Yep.
information behind the scenes that the users like you and I don't really care about. All we
Yeah.
want to do is navigate easily on that app and choose the new movie or the new sporting event we want to watch. And doing that through all these different services and deep links of video is a challenge. And SeaChange excels at that. And that's what we like to bring to these new customers. And that's before we even talk about the advertising revenue, right?
Yeah,
So
so that's very helpful to know. So you have an end-to-end integrated platform. So, and I've done one of the services that we offer is we'll work and do vendor selection. So for a new streaming service or MVPD, they may be like, hey, we want to build this. We're focused on the content of the business, but obviously we got to build this back office, this workflow. Who do you recommend? And I've engaged SeaChange and others in that type of service. So I guess the message is you can do everything. You can provide that platform. And on top of that, you have the monetization strategies with advertising. Let's talk about that a little bit more.
yeah, so we've come quite a way in the advertising strategies. We offer classically a server-side approach, and that, coming from the broadcast side,
Mhm.
which we still support and innovate on, up through to the streaming side, where it's all done in what's called a manifest manipulator or ad stitching, if you will, rather
Does
than
the manifest manipulator also allow you to time travel? Because it sounds like the flux capacitor a little bit, right?
it does, yeah. It's a little bit confusing. Time travel in video, sure, but for you and I, unfortunately, we're still the same old souls, so
Right.
not much we can do there. Yeah,
So that's
so
cool. So you have that. So talk about that product a little bit. What does that do for me if I'm launching a new service?
yeah, that product is something that allows us to do a server-side approach to adding pre-rolls, mid-rolls,
Okay.
and post-rolls in your VOD, which drives ad revenue for you, as well as in your linear streams and fast channels, right? So that's something new that's coming up in the industry is the support of fast channels where we take in our manifest manipulator your own content, VOD content or stored assets, and we present that as a new EPG feed, a new linear feed that creates brand new advertising revenue for you. It's
Mhm.
taking old assets, playing them again for new eyeballs, new subscribers, and we can target those feeds. So they know I'm a sports buff. We know I'm a sports buff, and we'll stream those fast channels with sporting events. Or if they
Mhm.
know I like watching romantic comedies, we'll create a 24/7 channel streaming romantic comedies. And you know that subscriber is going to engage in that channel rather than watching 5 minutes and switching it off. And
Okay, so
then
that's
you
more than
can't
just advertising. You're going down to content curation. You're actually creating that channel on the fly, like a dynamic channel creation.
exactly. We're going through that
Very cool.
dynamically, creating it. And we do that based on individual viewing habits because With our end-to-end platform, we get analytics of all the data going on that you're using, all your subscribers are using to watch videos. So we put that in place with our own manifest manipulator and present curated content with the ads inserted in it seamlessly.
Okay, so that's really interesting. You're marrying the content and the advertising inventory in a personalized way for each user.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
So, and we do that for FAST. We do it in linear and in AVOD as well. And what we're branching into now, in addition to the server side approach, Brian, is a client side approach. And what does that mean? That means on our own player, the subscriber facing video player that we have, we're now able to insert ads that include clickable events or QR codes, drive call to action, and drive engagement on the advertising side to give you even more revenue opportunities. So we're using a hybrid approach, the classic server side, and we're also stitching in some client side ad opportunities as well.
And can you give a business case or some, for when is that appropriate? Like when do I want to sort of do the server side and the client side together?
Yeah, client side is very beneficial when you're trying to offer completely free video offerings, an AVOD offer. And for instance, you don't have markers in the video content that can tell you when and where to put ads. On the client side, you can pop up a floating ad player and put it in the corner of the video, and now you're advertising BMW whenever you want without having to
Well,
curate your
interesting. Okay.
content ahead
So you're
of time.
not really stitching it into the actual content flow. You've got a pop-up. It's an overlay, basically. It's an
An over,
overlay.
yes,
But
on the client.
so is that by client side, are you saying it's the software in the client that's kind of managing that process? Where does the ad inventory come from in that case? Is it still in the cloud?
Yes, it is. Ad
Okay.
inventory is still in the cloud, still comes off an origin server. You're in essence switching our own player from to pop up that ad and have another layer of video on top of it. And that video is coming from the cloud as well. It's coming from a creative that we call out through industry standards to get a pointer to, and we'll
Mhm.
play that on your behalf and monetize it for you.
That's really cool. So you don't, in some ways, it's simpler, right?
In some ways, it's simpler. Client side, for the most part, is considered to be simpler, but there are some disadvantages to client side, and that's why we support server side as well. Client side, you can get ad blockers, and they won't let any ads play,
Good point.
or you can get some latency issues like I'm seeing in my video now occasionally, but where you're downloading the wrong profile, and you're going to see that spinning hourglass waiting for the high def ad to play on your mobile phone. That's not a great experience, and the client side suffers from that. But nonetheless, for customers like we have, where it's main screen primarily, we can pop that up. We know they have the fiber connect behind them,
Okay.
and it can support that for them.
Is that one of the inputs to your algorithm, so to speak? Is the bandwidth available for that ad? Like, can you insert that on the fly depending on what bandwidth is available?
Server side, that's what we do. We're able
Okay.
to detect what bandwidth is being supported by the current player event, and we can put the right ad profile in it in our manifest manipulator. On the client side, that's a limitation. You're going to pop up a floating ad, and you're going to get what has been returned to you in
Yeah.
terms of profile.
Okay. That makes total sense. So, I'll just throw this out there, Scott. So I've been following the space for a while, obviously. Um, and still see, I still engage with apps and services where the ads really don't relate to me, or they're repetitive, or in some cases, I don't want to name any names, but some streaming apps or virtual MVPDs, they have ad inventory issues and they have nothing to serve up to me. And awkwardly, sometimes be like, okay, your content will return after this ad, and there's no ad. So like, it's still a little kludgy. Like, what do we need to do as an industry? At this point, I think those problems would be largely be solved. What is the disconnect, I guess?
Yeah, there is a disconnect there. It's a big problem both in your video will resume in 5 seconds. And you just see a slate. That's a
Yeah.
big problem.
Okay.
There's the other problem as well where you lose your viewers because you've got too many ads
Yeah.
being played or very repetitive ads. So we're taking a unique approach to that at SeaChange that we're developing now. And we're doing something called ad load management, where we use our end-to-end video data, the analytics reports, as well as data from third-party big data lakes that tell us what things make it easier for us to decide what frequency of ads is supported with this viewers group.
Okay.
Should we put two pre-rolls or 10? Should we put a mid-roll at 5 minutes or 15?
Hmm.
And what drives that is something called an ad render rate, where it doesn't matter if I place 10 ads in the video, if only one gets watched, that's what I get paid for.
Yeah.
So it's a fine line. You want to create an ad load for the user under their own expectations, both cultural in different regions
Yeah.
and for the type of content they're watching. Live sporting events, you don't really want to break them up with ads. That's
Yeah.
very difficult. But VOD, maybe you can with a romantic comedy, put some jewelry ads in there, etc.
Right.
So we're doing analysis like that to limit or augment the ad inventory so that the number of ads you can actually
Mhm.
charge for increases.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, Scott, that the content you're watching, it really depends. With sports, you got to wait for timeouts for the commercial breaks, right?
Exactly. Or float a player on
Mhm.
top if you think your viewership will accept
Tolerate
that. And,
that.
and
Yeah.
many of them do. And many of the regions, they're very accepting of watching an ad
Yeah.
if they can get it for free.
Yeah, and
So
you could do bottom thirds. There's a lot of things you could do there to
exactly.
make it less obtrusive, still get credit for the impression.
Yeah.
And
And
it's
you see that
still,
in our North American market today with the side by side, right? They keep the video flowing during the timeout of the coach talking to the player, but here on the other side of the screen is the Coke ad.
I
And you
think
get,
that's brilliant. Like, I mean, I haven't seen the studies on this, but like, I know this is part art and part science. You need left, right brain people working together on this. But I
yes.
thought that was a great innovation. I'm probably, if I'm really engaged with my content, I don't want to see be interrupted commercial, but I'll see it. I'll see it on the side. Like, make sure I mean, that might be a different type of ad inventory. Make sure the logo is very prominent because that might be all I catch on the ad, right? Make sure it's more visually appealing versus audio because I may not be paying attention,
Or have a QR
listening.
code with a call to action that you can, if they're really interested,
Yeah.
they can go off and get it on their device because everybody's watching the main screen with a phone or a tablet. So
Yeah, and I wonder, I mean, imagine the advertisers get paid less for or pay less for those types of ads. I mean, do you tag that in your ad inventory? Like, okay, this is an ad that's good for split screen versus this needs your whole attention type of thing.
you send out in the ad inventory details on size and location so that the advertisers can bid differently on that
Okay.
for certain. Yeah.
It's so cool. I mean, I think there's so much innovation happening there. It's just, I'm not frustrated, but and I'm not surprised really, because again, it is a combination of art and science, and we've come a long way, but I still see, and again, I don't want to pick on any brands, like just huge disconnects. Like, are you kidding me? This is a waste opportunity. But listen, in the interest of time, I want to move along a little bit. If you can just talk to like one big trend that you see happening in the industry. I know we talked about moving to advertising that's really kind of shaping the industry in 2024.
Yeah, I think what I've noticed as a big trend is the drive towards away from traditional subscriber video offerings, which was SeaChange's bread and butter in the past. It's not like that anymore.
Yeah.
There's any number of video streaming options for the subscribers to view, direct to consumer video streaming options. And you'll see all of these vendors offering not just the free version with advertising, but subscription versions, or they go the other way. They start with subscription and they start losing viewers and
Hmm.
they start making it cheaper and eventually free,
Yeah.
fully advertising supported. We're seeing that happen a lot in the industry today. And even some of the standard cable companies or MVPDs are going away from video entirely and giving it up to the large streaming vendors
Yeah.
like a YouTube TV, and they're just providing fiber underneath and connection underneath. And there's a lot of benefit, or I should say, a lot of room for growth there in the industry in terms of the video experience for the user.
Mhm.
It's not fun to jump from Netflix to Prime to Disney and trying to find the content that you want to watch, or settling for a piece of content because you're sick of jumping from app to app. So that's something at SeaChange we look at that as well, providing underlying connected TV
Mhm.
OSs and end-to-end systems that simplify the approach from app to app, if you
Yeah.
will, and simplify the search using big data. So I think there's a lot of that coming up in the industry now, where we see all of these streaming vendors. We're going to have to stitch them together
Yeah.
in an approach that takes the user into account instead of just the top line revenue, because top line revenue is dropping when you lose the users. So it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, I think you're hitting a big one. Not only do you have this cornucopia of different apps and services, and you try to provide hopefully somewhat of an integrated user experience, but even within that app, there's different business models you need to support, from subscription to AVOD to FAST to sort of some combination potentially. I've seen that already, where you got FAST channel, but you also have AVOD kind of overlaid on top of that. From an advertising and monetization perspective, I mean, it must be a big challenge for SeaChange, but it's complex, right?
It's very complex, keeping track of it all, billing for it differently, doing the reporting on it differently, and tracking frequency, capping, all of these things that
Mhm.
impact the viewer experience. As you pointed out earlier, with I'm seeing the same ad over and over, this just doesn't work for me. It's very complex
Yeah.
going forward.
Very cool. Well, listen, Scott, one of the things we'd like to do in this podcast series is sort of personalize some of the luminaries in the industry and get to know a little bit about them as well. Is there some sort of hobby or interest you can share with our audience?
Yeah, I'd love to do that. So I'm a passionate outdoorsman. I love exercise and fitness. And for the last 22 years now, I've been participating in an event called the Pan Mass Challenge here in Massachusetts.
Oh
And
yeah, I'm familiar. Yeah.
yeah, so that's a 2 day bike ride that starts on the west border of Mass and rides all the way to the tip of Cape Cod, if you're familiar with the geography. And I've been doing that for 22 straight years now. It's 192 miles of cycling. And what I do is I send out letters to many of my peers, colleagues, and friends, and solicit donations on behalf of Dana-Farber Cancer Institute through the PMC. The
Hmm.
PMC actually is going to hit this year $1 billion in funding raised since it started in the early 80s,
Yeah.
all of which is donated directly to the Jimmy Fund and Cancer Research. So very passionate about that. I really enjoy the cycling aspect. It's a physical challenge, but more important is, and I don't know if I can say this, you may have to cut this, but kicking cancer's ass
Yeah.
through doing cancer research with the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. It's
It's a
extremely
great
valuable.
cause. I have other friends that that have been doing it for years. I was shocked. I remember like, oh, what do you want? Like a buck a mile or whatever. And I'm shocked how much the individual ask is. Like thousands and thousands of dollars. This is
Yeah,
more than
yeah.
selling
My
candy
credit
bars
card will
door to
be
door,
on the
right?
hook for $6,500 this year, I think.
Yep.
I'm committed to raise. If I don't raise it, they charge me for it. But I'm fortunate to have a large network of
Yep.
friends and family that are very passionate as well, and helps me raise the money for it. If anyone's interested at all, pmc.org is the website. And if you're passionate about cancer research, have a look there. I think you'll find they give 100% of every dollar you donate directly to cancer research. So it's a
Amazing.
very,
It's a great organization. It really is amazing. Now, is there an app and a website where I could track you and as I sit back and eat my cheeseburger and relax?
yeah, they do. They put a little RFID chip on our bike, and through the PMC app that you can download come August when the ride takes place. You can track me from rest stop to rest stop, and hopefully you won't see me pulling into any pubs along the way.
I was just gonna say, like, if we see you speeding up to like 60 miles an hour, we know you're either pedaling really fast or you took a taxi for a segment, right?
Exactly. That's right. Yeah.
For folks that know the Boston Marathon, that's sort of in Boston Marathon more lore, right? Someone actually did that. Well, Scott, it's been great talking to you. I've learned a lot. Even despite knowing about SeaChange, I did learn a lot about your history and your current offerings. Kudos to you, you're doing a great job. Let's stay in touch, and thanks again for your time today.
Thank you, Brian. It's been invaluable. I really appreciate the time.
Well, this is great. Signing off now, viewers. Once again, this has been Brian Mahoney, the president of the OTT executive community, joined by Scott Apgar from SeaChange. Thanks again. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.